I believe in trying to change the system and systemic change, but I actually believe that it happens with specific kids, with specific adults, in specific contexts, at specific times. And our work is just about making more of those happen.
You're listening to the Bold by Choice podcast with Vashaunta Harris and Jim Goenner. Real talk about charter schools, from the boardroom to the classroom, powered by the National Charter Schools Institute.
Well, colleagues and friends, welcome back to another episode of Bold by Choice. And we're excited for this season. We are shining a light on very bold educators and amazing schools that are redefining what is truly possible for students and for communities. Well, I'm Vashaunta Harris.
And I'm Jim Goenner. This season, we're celebrating schools worth bragging about, places where community, rigor, and opportunity come together in powerful ways.
I am really excited about our road trip. We are headed to Rhode Island, to a network that's changing what's possible for public education. Blackstone Valley Prep serves students from 4 very different communities that are only miles apart, but often worlds apart when it comes to opportunity and access. BVP brings these communities together very intentionally and says that all kids deserve access to excellent, joyful, college preparatory public schools.
Across 6 campuses, elementary through high school, students at BVP are experiencing strong academics, diverse communities, and a college-going culture that starts early. With intentional integration, a co-teaching model, robust AP offerings, dual enrollment, and remarkable college counseling, BVP has become a model of how to expand the circle of success for more children.
And leading this work is our new friend, and I'm excited for you all to hear from her, who has spent 25 plus years fighting the good fight with us, making public schools better. A teacher, a coach, a state level leader, a parent, and an advocate who believes very deeply in what's possible when we design schools with purpose and with heart.
Friends from Bold by Choice Nation, help us welcome Sarah Anderson. Sarah leads Blackstone Valley Prep. And Sarah, we are so glad you're here.
I am thrilled to be here with both of you.
Well, Sarah, I am super pumped. And before we dive in, I'd love to extend the opportunity for our audience to get to know you just a little bit as we have gotten that opportunity. So I'd love to give you the floor to just introduce yourself to us.
Sure. So years ago, when my husband and I lived in Berlin for a little while, my German teacher called me an Energiebällchen, which means little ball of energy. And that pretty much sums me up. I am 5 feet tall on a good day, and I am always racing around after something. At home, that was my kids, but they're now 17 and 19. So now I have a puppy. And at work, for nearly 3 decades, that has been doing absolutely everything in my power to make sure every child has a seat in a great school that matches their needs and where their brilliance can show. I had a great experience myself in school growing up, and it was in a school that I think most people would think of as one of the top public schools in the country. But it was clear to me throughout that time, even in high school and as a teenager, that my friends who were just a little bit outside the typical for our community, my friend who had recently arrived in the U.S. as a refugee, the one who was being raised by her older sister, they really struggled. They were shut out of the circle of excellence, and that was just totally unacceptable to me. And so I've been driven to expand that circle of success ever since. I've been a middle school teacher and an English teacher and district public schools. I've been in charter public schools. I've worked in state agencies and big city districts in New York and Michigan and Rhode Island, led summer camps, and at Blackstone Valley Prep now, where I am the CEO and superintendent and have been here for 10 years. I'm proud to say that we are doing that every single day, seeing the amazing moments where kids really shine. And so that's what I'm really proud of. Outside work, I love hiking and gardening. I'm a fan of college basketball, poetry and art and reading. And most of all, I love good stories. So I'm thrilled to be here to gab with you all about my favorite topic of kids and schools.
Sarah, you exude energy, and we love passionate people with energy committed to a purpose. So this is going to be a fun day.
Yeah.
That's right. Sarah, we'd probably be a sight to see. I'm all of 5'2" and also have a doodle that I run after. So one day we'll have to go take a walk with the dogs
That
if
would be
we're in
great.
the same place. Well, excited to jump in here. I wanted to start with one of my favorite questions. Can you tell us about a time where you kind of just stopped, looked at the work you all are doing at Blackstone Valley Prep, and you saw it at its best? A moment where you're like, yep, this is exactly why this space exists.
Yeah. I was in an elementary school classroom recently where the class was working on a word problem about collecting and graphing data. And the scholars were sitting on the rug, and the teacher asked them to predict what number would come next based on the data they had so far. And she asked them to turn and talk to each other. And they immediately, 100% of them, turned and were debating and using math terms and trying to figure it out. And the teacher and the teaching fellow in the room were circulating, running around, trying to, get quick notes on about the misunderstandings that they were hearing so they could talk them through with the class. And it was just 2 minutes, but it exemplified what instruction looks like at BVP when we're at our best. Every single brain was firing to figure something out. The scholars were talking to each other, and the adults were using time really efficiently and paying attention to what was understood, not just what the kids were doing. But the real magic of that moment that made me so excited was I had actually seen the exact same lesson a year ago, and it had not gone nearly as well. It was our first year using a math curriculum, and it didn't work. And what happened in between in that year was that our teachers collaborated with each other to make real adjustments and teach it better a year later. And those adjustments were made for every classroom in that grade level in every BVP building. And that was the part that was just absolutely thrilling to me to see.
Sarah, I love that. I'm going to give that a bold by choice shout out. You just said to a national audience, it didn't work. And what I love about that is we talk about failing forward, iterating, trying new and different, and sometimes things don't work. But, as Edison told us, that just means I found one thing less that I got to worry about as I get closer to success. So that's awesome.
Well, thank you. That is how we work. You got to adjust constantly.
That constant adjustment is what makes people great, right? It's that relentless pursuit of excellence and the iterations. So, Sarah, let's talk about the 4 communities. You've got 4 communities at BVP that have different histories and resources, and that's part of your design. Can you talk us through the design? Because we always talk that chartering as an opportunity to try new and different, to be a new design. Talk us through your founding and your design work.
Yeah, happy to do that. And I think, I can talk through sort of where we started and then also where we are now, because that iteration happens in small ways in the classroom, and it also happens at a design level for a school and a whole model level. So we were founded about 16 years ago, and the idea was to take 4 communities in Rhode Island that are very different from each other. So 2 urban, 2 suburban communities were very, very diverse and also very segregated racially, socioeconomically, linguistically. And not just between communities was that segregation happening, but also within them. So you had schools within those communities where one neighborhood school was high performing, affluent, and another neighborhood school was under-resourced and not performing well for kids. And the idea was we need to remove district barriers. They're false, really, and create a school that brought kids together across all these lines of difference. And we're in Rhode Island, so when we talk about this, if you go all the way from the farthest point of one of our sending districts to the farthest point of the other sending district, it takes about 35 minutes. This is not a large landscape. And so we were really founded to be a model of what you can do when you bring kids together across these sort of false zip code boundaries, and you have the resources to serve everyone. And you talk about college preparation for everybody and raise the bar of what we expect for kids and what their potential is for everybody. And we've been able to do that and have had great success for a lot of years now doing that. And we've also really lit a fire under our neighboring districts and our sending districts. One of our suburban districts has really excelled in the years since we got set up and created competition. So I think that's an exciting piece of the work is we're serving our own students and we're also serving the broader landscape in Rhode Island. I would also say that our diversity has evolved. It isn't just about the towns. The towns are always just have been shorthand anyway for the idea of diversity within a school system. It's really about the cultures and the backgrounds and the interests of our scholars. And that shows up in incredible ways every day in our classrooms and outside our classrooms. I was at our high school had a coffee house last week where the students do it's like an open mic night where students perform and the teachers perform alongside them. And we had songs sung in Spanish by the Marias. We had a hip hop dance performance. We had a Frank Sinatra song performed that amazingly the teenagers knew the words to. And that's what's special about the diversity. So it's in the model, but it's also just in our kids and in our people.
I got to give her another shout out. Not only is bold by choice, but stewards of possibility. Did you hear to the design, the future thinking, the rising tide that lifts all ships, that passion, that energy? Like, wow.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of our work. We're pretty proud of it.
Well, you're also very popular there in Rhode Island. I was looking at the website and there was a graph that stood out to me that I really loved. And it was talking about your application and enrollment. And there was, I think it was last year, for approximately 300 seats, you all had almost 2,000 applications. And that is one small data point that says something is going really well in this space, and also that students and families are knocking down the doors to get in. And so that made me ask the question, how do your students describe what it feels like to learn and be a part of the BVP community? Academically, socially, and just overall, what's their experience in this space?
Yeah, well, I think I'll sort of start at the elementary level and what it feels like in an elementary classroom, and then bring you all the way up to what it feels like in a high school classroom. At the elementary level, our classrooms are really energetic, and students are getting a lot of attention from adults where they're getting direct feedback all the time. So what you would see in our classrooms is moments like I described earlier, the whole group, but then moment to moment, students talking to each other and adults listening to what they're doing. You'd see a lot of sitting at small tables, getting individual attention, adults listening to the kids read, giving them immediate feedback. Our students are also in art or music or PE every single day. We start our day with circles where the class is talking to each other about topics that might be as simple as what you do over the weekend, and they might be as meaningful as, how did you celebrate holidays in your family and what are they? Because that sort of background that our kids come from is part of the curriculum to us as well. You'd see a lot of fun. We have pep rallies. We have, even with our little ones, they have class cheers, lots of energy. At the high school level, it is similar, but students are growing into more independence. And so by this time, while in elementary school, they have uniforms. By high school, we're still in uniform, but every T-shirt under the sun, your coffee house T-shirt, I'm wearing one right now, your sports jersey, all those things count as uniform. And that's just sort of visibly how the independence comes out. But our students are also in dual enrollment. They're in AP courses. They have creative schedules that allow them to go to internships at the national park that's down the street. So but it's still very much about being known and having adults paying attention to exactly what you're learning and what you need and responding to that individually for every student.
I love that, Sarah. We're fans of Edward Deming, and
Mm-hmm.
part of Deming's continuous improvement was the power of feedback loops. And the more feedback, the more real-time feedback, the more honest the feedback, the better you can get and the faster you can get better. So that's a great story there. Let's talk about the families.
Mm-hmm.
So Podcast Nation knows I'm a charter school dad. When I'm not traveling, I take Natalie to Renaissance Public School Academy proudly every morning. And what I always tell people is she loves to go to school. Like, it's never a fight. She wants to be there. Tell us about your students and their families. Do they want to be at BVP?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, our families choose us partly and importantly for our academic results. And they also choose us for the community that we have, which is really, really warm and connected. 80% of our graduates this year will be first generation college students. And our families know that promise. Our families know that that's what we're about. We start really strong academics really early, and then we are with families all the way to getting ready for something that many of them have not yet experienced themselves. Our college and career counseling is a great example of that. It is phenomenally strong. I would stack them up against the strongest independent schools in our state. We start with those partnerships very, very early. And we're working with families to figure out what is the right match for your child, not just academically, but also that it's going to work for your family, that is a distance away that feels appropriate for your family, that you're comfortable with. We're helping them figure out what they can afford. And I think that's a good example of how we're really partnering strongly with families by the high school level, but that begins earlier with whatever it is that your child needs to be successful. And 100% of our graduates last year left with a post-secondary plan. That's really important to us. And I think that's the promise that we make to our families.
Vashaunta, I'm hearing relationships, connections, belonging, and you know what? I'm going to use the word love.
Mm-hmm. It does. It starts with love. And I'm hearing that promise too. Jim and I talk about how chartering from its inception was really designed to be a new promise to communities for what the K-12 experience can be and what it can do for students. And I sit in awe as I get a chance to hear you and to hear your stories. And it makes me wonder, like, what shaped your leadership, right? It takes a powerful person and team. I'm sure your team is really, really strong also, to look at your system and say, hey, we're going to start with love. We're going to make sure that we're taking care of the humans involved, regardless of the level. And we're going to make sure that we are leveling up in this space. So I'd love to hear you talk us through your leadership journey.
Absolutely. So when I think about, these past 25 years, there's a lot that started very early for me in my first classrooms with my first students. And there's one in particular who stands out to me. His name was Daquan. I was teaching 8th grade English. And to say that he was challenging would be an understatement. He was extraordinarily challenging to teach, both academically and just the way he behaved in a classroom was really tough. And there was a day, this was my maybe second year teaching, there was a day when we were having a discussion about a book we were reading, and one of the things in the book was the moment that the nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. And we're having a conversation in class, and all of a sudden Daquan perks up and starts asking questions and challenging everybody in the room in a way that challenged me and my thinking. And I was a brilliant 24-year-old, right? But he really made me think. And I think about him all the time because he is somebody who I think in many spaces would be forgotten or even shoved to the side. And he brought brilliance into that room in a way that was unexpected for me. And I think ever since, what I have thought about is how do we create intentionally more moments like that for more children more of the time? And I think that's really shaped my leadership ever since. Is I believe in trying to change the system and systemic change, but I actually believe that it happens with specific kids, with specific adults in specific contexts at specific times. And our work is just about making more of those happen and expanding those opportunities for success to more places. And so that's really what's shaped my leadership. I learned really early on that it needed to be people-driven and context-driven and really, really concrete. I worked at a state education department. I've tried to do systemic change from a more policy level. And I found that for me, I had to know the faces of the children. I had to know their names. And I had to be able to say, I'm going to do what works right here, right now. And everything we're doing, even now as a superintendent, I'm setting conditions, but I am not an ideologue about anything. If it works for my kids right here, right now with these teachers, great. And if it doesn't, we're going to change it.
That's absolutely right. I love that energy of it's about the people who are here right now. And, I don't have children yet, but I hear folks who have multiples always say, they're both my kids or they're all four of my kids, and they're very different. They react to different things. They need different things in order to be successful because they're their own person. And I love to hear how you approach that with your schools and your system.
As a father of 7, I can say amen to that.
Holy cow! Father of 7. That's amazing.
3 boys, 4 girls. Oh, yeah. Yep. Um, Sarah, what I loved about that story is the mindset and the attitude that it's not just about conformity and compliance, that you saw the potential, that you were open to the potential, and all of a sudden the potential gets unleashed. That's not always the case. And that's a mindset that starts with the leadership and goes through the teachers and to the students. And so, talk to us about your teachers. It sounds like you are a team and like they are the masters of their art and craft, in that they see it as both an art and a science, and they're teaching children and then they're teaching their subject or their grade level. But like that human soul comes first. Is that is that a fair description of what's going
Oh,
on?
absolutely. I mean, our teachers are incredible. And I look at them every day and I think, my God, if only I could have taught like they teach, right? They are really amazing. And what's amazing about them is that they are teaching each other and they are supporting each other. And that is actually how we keep getting better. I think the difference between what we're able to do and sort of my own experience coming up as a teacher is that I was trying to figure it out on my own. And they are learning from each other all the time. And some of that is intentionally built into our model, and some of it is because they pick it up and run with it. But we usually have two adults in the room at all times. And we have a program called our Teaching Fellows program that we're using to grow our own teachers very explicitly. And that story I told earlier about the classroom and the two teachers walking around during the turn-in talk, one of those was actually the certified teacher and one of them was the teaching fellow. And that teaching fellow is an aspiring teacher, and he was one of our first graduates in 2018. So a first-generation college student who's come back to us to now become a teacher. And that sort of growing is what our educators are all about. And what's special about it is that we do coaching, we do professional development, lots of districts do, but actually they're learning from each other in the room all day long. That is the best way to grow into the strongest teacher, and that's built into how we work. And that's what makes this ability to adjust all the time and not just take what's given by curriculum or take what is best practice, but actually to, in the moment, be figuring out in this space. And it helps that we have multiple adults in the room all the time. And folks are learning and collaborating constantly. I think that's a lot of our special sauce. And it's important because teaching it's a profession. It's not just compliance. It requires that level of work and thinking and reworking all the time. And our teachers and our coaches and our leaders, they're doing that together every single day.
So Ted Coldery, who's 95, sits on our National Charter School Founders Library Advisory Board, is such a keen thinker, but where he's been at for the 30 plus years is teachers as professionals. That the true reform happens by those closest to the action. I mean, Sarah, you're just describing this in such great detail. And for the podcast nation that's out there thinking, I wish I had a dynamic like that, that's vision, that's leadership, that's intentional design. You can have that, but it's the difference between having a staff and having a team. Having people that are bought in and care and love and are in an environment that supports that and models that, versus we're just independent contractors, come in the door, close, teach, close the door, leave. Like that team where you can learn and grow together, win together, lose together, cry together, love together. That's the magic that we want for every kid in every school.
Absolutely true. And I think it's the magic that we want for our educators as well. Taking care of our teams, taking care of our people, and making sure that we are a place where they can be their best selves is actually what pays off for children as well. And those two things have to get held up together. And it's not easy to do all the time, but it's really important to us. And it's something that our leaders are really bought into as well. And that degree of teacher leadership and teacher ability to make decisions and be leaders themselves within their rooms is a core part of how we work.
I tell my kids all the time, great news is you can do hard things. And if it was easy, everybody could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that example. And it's just, it's so powerful when you see it and feel it in action. We like to say excellence has a look and a sound and a feel. and it just exudes. And you're a great leader. I can just see it and hear it in your voice and your smile and your passion.
Well, thanks. That feels good.
It's so true. And we've had this kind of setup, right? So we've heard from how students experience it and how the adults in the building experience the space. And I believe all of those foundational elements help you get to the success that you have and the success that you envision for the future. And so I'd love to hear you share with us what have been some of the successes, academically, culturally, that you all have experienced and would like to celebrate with us.
Sure. So we have had a long history of really kind of breaking expectations about what's possible for individual kids. And we've had strong results on state assessments in reading and in math for a very long time. We've had incredible college access for our students and persistence. And I will say that the pandemic smacked us around. We had a model that was really working, and then it got tough. And really what we've been able to do in the past couple of years is figure out, okay, how do we get back to where we belong? And so in this past year, we had the statistically significant growth on both math and ELA state assessments. We were the only district in the state to have that this past year. Our students outperformed the state on the SATs in both math and ELA, and really outperforming a lot of much better resourced districts. That's what we expect. That's what we can do. That's what our kids can do. And we have students going to incredible schools. We have every year students who are first generation college students going to Ivy Leagues and some of the top schools in the country, and then persisting, and then coming back and doing great work here in Rhode Island. And that's a place where I think we've also evolved. We started out, our mission was about preparing every scholar for success in college. We are now have expanded that as a community, and we adopted a new mission that is preparing every scholar to achieve their goals for college and the world beyond. And that's an area where we're really stretching and grounding ourselves in what are our scholars' goals for themselves and what does success look like for them. And for many, that is college, but it's some of them college right away, some of them college after they went out and do something else. And for now that we have alums, college alums, we're able to start looking at what are they doing out in the world and how are they making an impact and how are they having stronger, more fulfilling life trajectories than they might have had without us. And so we're defining success in broader ways now, and that's really exciting and a place where we're stretching ourselves. And we have scholars now who are working for the CDC as health ambassadors. And we have scholars now who are working, actually doing financial lending work to get new schools built. That's the kind of impact that we want to see. It's exciting. We have a scholar who's the first Guatemalan student to become an intern in a neuroscience lab at Harvard University. Those are the kinds of impacts that we're starting to see, and it's really exciting.
What I hear you saying is like you are incredibly responsive, even as you think about your mission and your vision and how that lives and breathes through the student experience. That is super exciting.
And I serve on a board called 22 Beacon that breaks barriers around facilities for charter schools. So we may need to come recruit that student.
You may. His name's Julio. He's amazing.
All right, Julio, we're going to get you connected. But as we head to the finish line, Sarah, let's talk about vision. And I want to tee it up this way. Jim Collins in Good to Great talks about level 5 leaders. And they have a unique combination of personal humility and professional will. They're always looking forward. They're what we like to call stewards of possibilities. They think about the future not as a place of fear, but as an opportunity to create and shape it. Talk to us about the future you see for you and your team at BVP.
I think we are really laser focused on how do we keep getting better for our students. We are already outperforming a lot of the places that they would have the opportunity to go if we didn't exist. But it's frankly not enough, right? Until every one of our students is prepared for what they want to do next, we're not done. The work's not done. And so we're really focused on that. I'm very excited about where we are this year, even compared to last year. Every year we're sort of looking at what is it going to look like as far as how our kids are performing this coming year, and how is that different than the previous year, and are we still growing? And so we're really excited about that. I mean, that's our core work, is making sure that kids have the skills they need for their futures. I think the place where we are going to continue to evolve and that I'm excited about in terms of possibility is around career exploration and career preparation. That's something that I think the whole landscape is looking for more of from the schools. And it's something that our community has asked for. We just opened a new sort of satellite campus to our high school that is based in downtown Pawtucket, one of our sending districts. It is a co-location with a YMCA, which is very exciting for us because it's allowing us to do things like give them access to a swimming pool and a climbing wall, but also the public library across the street and public transportation. And so for the first time, we're able to do things like, hey, you can leave school after you finish your core classes and hop on the public bus and get to an internship. That is brand new possibility for us. We just opened that campus 2 months ago, and that feels like a really exciting place for us to go for the future. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Vashaunta, it sounds like we should tell her about our new federal grant linking classrooms to careers and all the pathways.
Oh, we have lots of conversations we're going to continue to have with our new friend here and the team.
That
at
sounds
Blackstone
very
Valley
exciting. I'm all in on that possibility. Tell me about it.
That's right. Well, I am a firm believer that we have to begin and end everything we do in this space with students in mind. And so our closing question is here. What is something that your students have taught you this school year?
So I'm not going to lie, this job is very, very hard. And I may be a ball of energy, but that doesn't mean I don't get tired or frustrated or want to use my energy to play with the dog, right? And what my scholars teach me and reteach me every time I need it is that they're worth it.
I love that. That was that beginning and ending with love, right, Jim? I heard it again.
Oh, man. So simple, so elegant, but, it's so real, right? This work is hard. It is flat out hard. And changing the status quo was never going to be easy. Changing paradigms, breaking barriers, creating hope, dealing with kids that might not want to be there. The kids that fold their arms and say, I'll bet you can't teach me anything, right? How do you break through? But it is worth it, right? And when you see that click, you see that magic, you see that engagement, it's like, yes, right? As educators, I sometimes call that the paycheck we can't cash.
Mm-hmm.
But, does it make our hearts feel good?
It's really important to me. I think my teachers know there are days when I just come through and they say, "Oh, what are you doing here today?" And I said, "I just need to soak up some kids. That's what I need to do. It's important to keep going, and I do it pretty frequently. Just go soak up some kid energy."
So, Vashaunta, I'm going to close up my end of it by paraphrasing Sarah. We strive to keep getting better, right? I call that the passionate pursuit of excellence, that relentless pursuit. Our work's not done. The great thing about the work we all do is we can do this for the rest of our lives and then pass it on to those come after us. This will never be done, not in our lifetimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're stewards of possibility. We carry it as far and as well as we can. And then this idea about preparing kids, not just for college, but for work and life, right? The whole being and the career pathways and the continuous shaping and improvement and evolution. And that's why what we've historically called the soft skills are important. These kids are entering in a future where there's going to be jobs and responsibilities that don't even exist yet. And that's why it's not just about skills and content. It's about the whole person and these things that are transferable that they can use to grow and resource and be independent. And so, Sarah, you just were so invigorating. And it's that spark it's why we do this, right? It's the community so that we can come back and refresh our hearts and souls and our minds and get back at it because it is worth it.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Well, we want to thank you. Your gift of sharing your stories, the stories of your students and communities has been inspiring and also powerful. So thank you for spending some time with us today. And friends, if today's episode inspired you, share it with an educator, with a family member on social media. Connect with us. We'd love to hear from you and how this is landing in your space, because we believe that all students deserve everything it is that they want and need so that they can thrive. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button, follow us. Let's make a commitment to being bold by choice together, because we all know that great schools really don't happen by accident. They are very intentionally designed. Well, we appreciate each and every one of you for continuing on your journeys. Continue to listen, continue to stay with us. And we'll be back, same bad time, same bad station next week. Have a great day, y'all.